I'm Craig Kenneth, a relationship coach and a psychotherapist. Every relationship is different and every breakup is different. Work with me and you'll get professional help on your situation. And if you're in no contact focused on personal growth, my Knowledge Workbook series and Creative Healing course can help you make changes like you've never made before. Available now at AskCraig.net. Hi there, I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And in this video, we're going to be talking to you about, did my ex really lose feelings?
This is something that exes say a lot during the breakup process.
Yeah, it is a big excuse, we'll say, during a breakup. And it's like trying to figure out what does that mean and do they really mean it?
And it can mean a lot of things.
Yeah, it's really confusing because you're like, wait a minute, what does that mean? Or they'll say that, I love you, but I'm not in love with you. And it's like, what? I don't understand. Isn't love love?
Yeah, and you'll hear a lot of long-term couples talk about just that natural ebb and flow in relationships. So you might be thinking, well, this is just a season where we might be feeling a little bit disconnected. But for a lot of people, that can be a struggle. And like I had said, losing feelings can mean a lot of different things.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about that today because chances are you probably had or heard that reason, especially if you pushed your ex for answers and reasons.
Exactly. Right? So over time in a relationship, we can start to forget why we even like our partner. I saw a really, like that. Like, why do I even like you? I saw this really interesting reel, and it was like somebody saying a hot take. And the person was saying that it's more important to like your partner than to love them. And their reasoning was there will be times in a relationship where it's not as passionate and it's really that deep friendship that can get you through.
Sure.
And the romance can be cultivated again.
Yeah.
And it's also something that the Gottmans talk about a lot too, is friendship being one of those foundational elements of a relationship. So that part is so important.
Yeah. So many people will date somebody that they wouldn't even be friends with.
Yeah. And that's insane to me. Yeah. It's true. And so a big part of that relationship is to be interested in them, curious about them, and to be interesting to them.
That's right. Don't just mail it in. Don't just live every day going to work, coming home, going to work, coming home. People get bored and they don't want to get caught in that forever. Of course, there's going to be some comfortability in a relationship, but people also want to feel like you're, living life and you're enjoying life and making the most of it.
Oh, yeah. Fun and enjoyment are really important elements to a relationship. And it's just on a mental health basis, it's really important for relaxing, for managing your emotions, for being able to be creative and be calm. So fun and enjoyment, you never want to minimize the importance of that as much as people do.
I think that complacency and taking someone for granted really comes into play. Many of us take our ex for granted and we become complacent and we don't really make an effort anymore. Certainly not like you did in the beginning when you were trying to get their attention. So, if you come on strong and give all this attention and you do all these fun things with this person in the beginning and then you stop doing those things, they're going to be like, well, wait a minute, why did we do all those things in the beginning? Why can't we continue to do those great fun things? So you want to court your partner. You always want to court your partner, and you always want to consider that they could leave you at any time for any reason. So if you just neglect them and become selfish and self-absorbed and only care about your point of view or perspective, they're going to feel more and more minimized in the relationship, and that's very painful. Right?
Yeah. Or the opposite. If you find yourself so consumed in the relationship that you completely lose yourself, then that can also be something that affects attractiveness. And that's something that this can also mean. Losing feelings could also mean losing attraction in a relationship.
Absolutely.
And that could be for a lot of different reasons. Mental health issues that come up, anxiety, depression, which can lead to that complacency.
Yep.
And I hear a lot of stories like that in breakups where, a person will say, yeah, I had a really rough 6 months, or I had been depressed.
Sure.
I wasn't taking care of my body like I typically do. I wasn't socializing like I typically do. I was really isolated, and I wasn't doing the things that made me feel good or made me feel alive. And so these types of things can slowly erode not only your relationship, but also yourself. And then you find yourself depressed and in a breakup. So that can be a really slippery slope.
And the thing about it is that it could be them that is depressed. Mm-hmm. And that's part of the reason they're losing feelings for you. When your body is going through a depression and you're having stress hormones released and you're exhausted all the time, you don't feel the excitement and the passion that you did in the beginning of the relationship. Or it could be you depressed, that's neglecting the relationship, or you're struggling with your own issues. But so either of those things could be a reason why someone is losing feelings.
Yeah. And it's really important to have this balance of seeing your partner as an other, but not somebody who is so distant that you can't connect, right? If you're codependent with your partner and the two of you are attached to the hip and then you kind of are dragging each other down, that can bring a weight to the relationship versus you being able to do those things to where you can care for yourself and be your own independent person and be able to show up for that relationship. I think interdependence is the goal, the word that we strive for.
That's a good point. Yeah, if you're too dependent on them, that's a turnoff and it feels unattractive.
Right. And so we also don't live in a vacuum. I know we're talking about two people in that dynamic.
We're not spiders. We don't live in a vacuum.
Do spiders?
Well, they get sucked up sometimes.
They live in there?
I assume.
They make a little home?
I don't know, I guess. Isn't that a web in there?
I don't know, maybe. All the dust.
Exactly.
Probably some.
And the dog hair.
Some toys in yours. Like an arm of a figurine or something. But we don't live in a vacuum like spiders. And so there could be other things in the world, in our environment, that are causing your ex to lose feelings. Meaning there could be other people that are bringing up a spark in them that they realize something is missing in their relationship.
Yes.
And that's something that is an unfortunate reality, right? We kind of wish that we lived in this world where it was just us and our partner. We had no one else to worry about, and no one else would make our partner think that they're missing out, right? It would be great, but we don't live in that type of world. And we have to be able to see that there could be other people that are interesting. Not that we have to be the most interesting person in the world, but a lot of times, them meeting somebody else who is taking care of themselves, meeting somebody else who is able to be curious about them and see them as this other, as this mysterious other.
That they're not caught in this power dynamic with, that they're actually laughing with, and they come home to you and you're in an argument about the dishes for the 900th time this week. Right.
So it's important to be aware of that as well. And I think a part of this and keeping the quote unquote spark is really just about being open. I think it's about being open to being curious about your partner, the things that you don't know. You could spend a lot of time, you could spend many, many years with your partner and still have things that you don't know about your partner. So maintaining that curiosity is a big part of it. Another huge piece is maintaining that intimacy as well.
Yeah.
I find that a lot of times you become so complacent with your partner, so used to them, that the magic in that physical affection gets lost. And there's a book that's really great, and it talks about intimacy. It's called Come As You Are by Emily Nagoski, if I'm saying her name correctly. It's a really popular book. But in it, she talks about just drives, and she talks about different types of drives in different people. And she says that you can be open to starting a physical connection with someone. And maybe in the beginning, maybe it's not something that you necessarily are seeking out or are super interested, but maybe you're open to it. And in the midst of that physical interaction, then you become more driven and more interested in that. So not to say that you have to be physically intimate with your partner in ways that you don't want to or that you're uncomfortable with, but ask yourself, what am I open to?
Sure. And consider that people have their own set of needs, and that if they're going to be exclusive with you, that if you don't meet those needs, then they're going to get them elsewhere eventually.
And that's why that question of what are you open to? Different things work for different couples, but having just that piece of physical affection, whatever that looks like, is really important for most couples, for a lot of couples.
Now, what happens at the time of the breakup? What do people say? They say, I've lost feelings for you. And the minute that happens, your anxiety skyrockets. and everything inside of you is like, what can I do to get them back? And you're willing to do all these things that you think is magically going to create attraction again. Oh, I'm going to start cleaning the litter box all the time now. I'm going to start vacuuming and doing the dishes more. I had a guy recently that this happened with, right? And so he starts doing all these things around the house thinking that it's going to create the attraction again. But that's not really going to create the attraction.
Yeah.
You have to focus on creating the attraction, and then those other things aren't so as upsetting or annoying to the other person.
And that's something that I see a lot, actually, is that a lot of times somebody saying I've lost feelings kicks the other person into overdrive, and now the other person is completely people pleasing. What can I do to make you happy again? What can I do to make you like me and make you want to stay?
But that's like Smithers from The Simpsons, right? It always reminds me of Smithers with Mr. Burns always trying to get his undying love, and the more he does it, the more Mr. Burns is like, oh, Smithers.
Yeah. And what a lot of people find is they end up doing all of this stuff for their partner, and then their partner's like, not unhappy or staying like, oh, you think that's going to fix it? Right?
Yeah. It's like you think that doing all these things is going to change the dynamic, but it just makes them more annoyed. They're like, for some reason, it just doesn't create attraction. You would think it would. You're like, but they said I didn't do the dishes or clean the cat litter, and now I'm doing it, and things aren't getting any better.
Because then that resentment comes in. Oh, you're doing it now because I said something. Or how long are you really going to keep this up for? You're going to keep this up until I'm wrapped up into this relationship again, and then you're going to go back to your old ways.
Just as I told you would do. This is why we always say you got to really work on yourself and no contact.
So consistency is important, but also I think the bigger picture we're trying to say here is being able to really find yourself again, is really being able to take care of yourself and really have that self-confidence.
Yep.
Because that's going to be the thing that's going to help you be consistent. If you're able to say, okay, I've been falling short in these ways, I need to get it together. What can I do to feel better about myself so that it's easier for me to show up? Then that's much better than trying to just force somebody else to like you.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
Right. Remembering what keeps us in our element, right? Making a routine of caring for ourselves and finding those things that really do make us feel alive, whether that's hobbies or interests that we might have lost sight of, whether that's reconnecting with friends and family that we may have ignored because of our relationship. So doing those things that make us feel like us. And a lot of times when we get into that people-pleasing mode, we really forget who we are. And who we are is who attracted our ex in the first place, right?
Yep.
So thinking back of how can I be myself here? How can I show up for myself? And ask ourselves, what are we neglecting even within ourselves? Because chances are, if your ex is saying that they're losing feelings, there's probably some of that going on.
Yeah. So, yes, people can lose feelings, and feelings can change. There are certain things that keep people attracted, and there are certain things that make people lose feelings, lose that chemistry, lose that spark. We've covered a bunch of different ones, and I'm sure there are others that you guys could talk about in the comment section and share, oh, this is what, my ex said, and this is probably why they lost feelings for me. If you're always taking care of the relationship and you're not negligent, you're going to be a lot less likely to hear that I've lost feelings thing, that comment of I lost feelings. In other words, like, if you just get caught in the routine of coming home, eating dinner, going to bed together, and you're not really having fun and creating the connection or the spark, that's a big reason why people lose feelings.
Yeah. And what's hard about this is hearing your partner say that they've lost feelings can also bring you a lot of depression and anxiety.
Yeah.
So it's something that you really have to battle against and really ground yourself to say, okay, how can I come back to myself? How can I take care of myself to better show up for my partner?
All right, so hopefully this one's been helpful to you. Of course, if you want to get our help personally, you could do that on my website, askcraig.net. I do email coaching and I do Zoom calls. Coach Victoria is also available for Zoom calls.
I'm here whenever you'd like to chat.
Just click on her name on the top of the website to schedule with her. But that's it for this video. I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And we will talk with you soon.